Yo, what's going on, everyone? This is Logical Reaction Guy. I have another reaction for you coming from this new channel I'm reacting to called WION or YION. So I think we should talk about these things because I've been seeing them a lot in the media and I have no idea what they are. They're called Xenobots. Apparently, they're like frog cells that have been repurposed using technology that can self-replicate. They're like self-replicating robots. I don't get that at all. So I think we should just watch this quick clip just to see what's going on with these things and why they're gaining so much hype. It seems like they have a lot of really useful purposes. They can transport things. They can move towards targets. They can self-replicate. But I don't understand how these are like. Are they actual just living beings that have been like? Are they like cyborg cells? Who knows? In any case, let's react and see what we can make of these things.
This afternoon, as we sat down to prepare our story list for the show, two unusual headlines caught our attention, two very interesting yet frightening stories. The first one was about self-replicating robots. Robots that can reproduce, create copies of themselves, make babies like humans do, robots. The second story was about a tech firm which is offering money to people to have their faces imprinted on...
Just for some background, ASAP Science and Seeker already made videos on these about a year ago. So the concept of Xenobots aren't new, but apparently they've gotten major coverage over the past like day or two. So I'm just reacting to it now.
To create what they call robots with human faces. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions or question the intention of the scientists involved, but it's hard to not ask this question. Have these people never read science fiction? They're creating robots that can multiply and machines that will look like us. What could possibly go wrong? Well, that's the question we'll try to answer tonight because they've not been able to answer it themselves. As we decode the many...
How do people feel about that, by the way? Like potential robot takeover? I don't think we're at that level yet, but you know what they say. Science fiction can, imitate reality, or reality can imitate science fiction. It's just a cycle. So let's see what they have to say about it.
Dangers involved with such experiments and understand the many adverse consequences they can lead to. We'll begin with the reproductive robots. They're being nurtured in the United States. Scientists have created robots that can produce an offspring. They're calling them Xenobots. This is what they look like.
Can I say that this is, like, I'm really intrigued now. Like, I'm kind of sucking because, like, she's so passionate about it. These robots, as no one read science fiction. No, honestly, like, I'm with her,
These tiny organisms that you see, these spherical clumps, they're Xenobots. And they're not made of metal or plastic. They've been created from biological tissues, which essentially makes them living robots. Robots that can move on their own, heal on their own, and now, of course, reproduce on their own.
So I'm confused. Is it just biological matter that's been, like, genetically modified in order to reproduce something that wasn't able to? I mean, I know I said it's frog stem cells, but I'm still confused as to what these things actually are.
How exactly were they created? By assembling...
Just for reference, I'm not a biologist. I know nothing about biology. I'm a chemical engineer. I did research in physical chemistry. In studying hard matter, things that are earth abundant and stuff of the sort. So I know nothing about these things. I'm just educating myself so I can translate it to you guys.
Stem cells from embryos into synthetic life forms. Allow me to explain. I know it sounds complicated. In order to design these Xenobots...
She's like, I know it sounds complicated, but you know what? I'm going to be like LRG, like me, and decipher it for you guys.
Scientists first created random 3D designs on a supercomputer, like the one that you see. Simulated blocks of skin and heart cells that can move on their own. These blocks, or configurations, were then assigned tasks through an algorithm. What kind of tasks? Like walking in a certain direction, basic things. The most promising configurations here, the ones that perform the tasks well, were then taken to a lab to be injected with life. Life taken from African clawed frogs. These toads that you see, They're the source of life in Xenobots.
Okay, so far the way I'm understanding is that they're like blocks of tissue that they put together and they modeled and they assign tasks. But I still don't understand how that relates to them injecting it into the frog cells.
This species is found in sub-Saharan Africa. It can regenerate its skin when wounded. So this is what scientists did. Take out skin and heart cells from the embryos of these organisms and then inject them into 3D blocks through tweezers and electric tools. Once injected, these blocks were kept in dishes of water to keep the frog cells alive. And they did stay alive. And all of this was done in 2020. Not only are these creatures alive and kicking, they're reproducing. They're creating copies of themselves, just like molecules do. So what are they doing? First, they release loose cells, then they smush them into clusters, swatch them with water, and if the cluster is large enough, within a few days it takes a new life. It evolves into a child Xenobot. Does sound like a fun experiment, but the question is, what's the point of it? What are these Xenobots for? What are they going to do? Here's a human question for these living robots. What is their purpose? The scientists are yet to decide. They're not sure how these Xenobots can be used, but they've suggested some immediate applications. Here's what they can do. Collect microplastics from waterways, or wipe away cancerous cells inside the human body. And these are all suggestions. Suffice to say, the scientists themselves do not know at this point. Now,
okay, so you know what? This is all entertaining, but I think we should watch a video that I saw previously. So I'm going to switch back over to my other camera right here, so you guys can see me. I'm going to switch to another video because this one isn't the most informative as far as like the exact details. So let's watch the video from Seeker instead and see how we compare there. Right, so we're back to our view. So let's see what Seeker has to say about these Xenobots.
We're looking at the world's first living robots. That's right, these micro-machines are in fact brand new programmable life forms that researchers believe could help clean microplastics from our oceans or even repair organs inside our bodies. So what exactly are these little things? Should we expect to see them whizzing through our bloodstreams anytime soon? Measuring less than a millimeter wide, these Xenobots, as they're formally known, were created by researchers from the University of Vermont and Tufts University. Using stem cells harvested from the embryos of the African clawed frog in a sophisticated computer algorithm, they generated a blueprint design that allowed the team to then build a new form of life that has never existed before. Stem cells were first differentiated into skin and heart cells. The skin cells were chosen for their capability to bond together to form the passive architecture of the Xenobot, while heart cells were selected for their ability to contract and relax, with the goal of manufacturing a type of tiny engine that would propel the Xenobots. After observing the natural dynamics between the skin and heart cells, the data was fed into an evolutionary algorithm run on a supercomputer. Based on this data, the algorithm was able to generate millions of different cell configurations to test for a desired outcome. In this case, locomotion. And so began the test for survival. Only the fittest configurations advanced to the next stage, where their designs were then crafted into better digital models. After about 100 test runs, only the very best configurations were left. Thanks to the power of their evolutionary algorithm, the team finally had a winning blueprint for their new life forms. All they had to do now was create them. Sounds simple? Well, it wasn't. The team used tiny forceps and a microscope to painstakingly perform microsurgery on heart and skin cells to create their novel organisms. And voila, the researchers created their first Xenobots. The biobots could propel themselves, moving in straight lines.
That's absolutely crazy. So they differentiated stem cells into heart and skin cells and used features from both. Heart cells having the ability to contract, therefore there's movement, and then skin cells being able to develop the structure. And then they completely deconstructed these cells, put them back together, and now they can move. They look like little hearts. And it looked like they used an evolutionary algorithm that allowed them to figure out which were their best configurations for potential functions, right? That's what they were showing previously.
Or in circles. They could work together, herding loose particles into tiny heaps. And when cut open, the Xenobots healed themselves. Understanding exactly how cells do this is ultimately the goal behind this research. Cells are incredibly intelligent. There are still so many things that we don't know about how they work. Like, how do they communicate to build complex bodies, or even heal? If we could decode those signals, scientists could build smarter robots with pre-programmed tasks that would be biodegradable and biocompatible. And these little Xenobots are just the first step in figuring out how to control anatomy on demand. I mean, just imagine all the applications of this type of research. If scaled up, Xenobots could be used for regenerative medicine, like repairing organs, or growing body parts for transplant from the ground up. They could be created using a patient's own cells, then inserted into their bloodstream and programmed to clear the plaque from clogged arteries or to detect cancer. But the applications aren't just limited to the medical field. The team also envisions assigning individual tasks to a swarm of Xenobots to collect microplastics from the ocean or search and collect radioactive contaminants. Now, a world full of custom, planet-saving Xenobots sounds really cool, but you may have already asked yourself about the ethical implications for creating a totally new form of life. And you're not alone. The team has fully acknowledged that future iterations of Xenobots could include nervous systems, blood vessels, or even reproductive parts. And it's these additions that are prompting many to wonder if Xenobots should be considered more than just machines. There's also the tiny fact that the research is partially sponsored by DARPA's Lifelong Learning Machines program, which again has left some observers questioning the future direction of this research. However, the research team is open and encouraging of these ethical discussions in the public domain, and we hope that.
Okay, I think I have a better understanding. I mean, they're just reconstructed
The phase of
cells.
the research is to develop a Xenobot capable of carrying a payload using a patient's cells to deliver medications deep within the human body without eliciting an immune response. So ultimately, these Xenobots are just the first steps in trying to understand how life starts, perhaps one day providing scientists.
I mean, I don't think there's anything. I mean, it's not like directly artificial. I mean, like they're using artificial intelligence to determine what the design of the Xenobot should be, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of hype around it and calling them robots. I don't know if they're necessarily robots. They're not mechanical. There's no mechanical component. They're just components from biological things that exist, and they're just kind of fragmenting them and then piecing them back together. Maybe there are others that can comment on this that know more than I do, but if you do, please feel free to share in the comments. Let's have an open discussion about this, because honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Let's talk about it in my Discord. I have a Discord link on my channel. I'm streaming every weekday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 8 to 10 Eastern. And let's chat about it. We can watch more videos if need be. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. It's interesting.